we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means, on infiltration instead of invasion, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. There is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it.
All right, welcome to episode 99 of the Abuse Hour. It is I, your host, Coffee Long, coming to you unsupervised, unmedicated, and an unchecked threat to society. So once again, man, sorry for the delay. I had travels, fucking planes, trains, automobiles. It was not the deal, man. It was not the deal. I managed to get back from the Pacific Northwest. And, dude, it's chilly woo. I'll tell you something. I'm not designed for that ultra cold, man. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I mean, sometimes, I don't know, man. I heard this Danish saying that there's no such thing as bad weather. There's just bad clothes. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm the problem, like usual. Anyway, what was I going to say, man? So, yeah, in terms of topic, as promised, I did look into some Spanish Inquisition type stuff. It's kind of difficult to nail down. I'm not done with it yet, dude. I want to look some more at it. But as suspected, there is a huge Jewish component to it. And like most things, I think it's one of these deals where it's kind of just, it's very, very obscure. It's just like the Weimar situation, right? Like, we're not going to talk about that. We're only going to talk about, you know, ovens and roller coasters that land you in an oven and what have you, and this kind of crazy shit, bears and eagles tearing people apart, crazy stuff, right? We're only going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about anything that led up to that. And it's kind of the same thing, I think, man, because if you say Spanish Inquisition, people just say, oh yeah, evil, it's pure evil, only evil. Like, you know, a bunch of Spaniards woke up one day and they were like, you know what I think today? I got this great idea for fucking somebody up. What do you, grab that saw, watch this, right? And then you look at it and it's like, no, this was actually a long fucking time coming. I would even, you know, without giving any spoilers, I would venture to guess that this whole thing kicked off with like the Moor conquest of Spain, of the Iberian Peninsula, that stemmed from the Gates of Toledo incident in 711 AD, kicked off by none other than our tiny hatted friends. So that went on for, I mean, that was, I don't remember how long exactly, I got to look that up, but I mean, that was hundreds and hundreds of years. And as you might imagine, our scroll rolling pals made life difficult on literally everybody who wasn't them. So basically Europeans. You fucked over Europeans for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then once they got back in charge of things, you tried to hustle, tried to run a little scam. We're like, nah, Goy, I'm just like you. I'll say you little sacraments and I'll play ball. No, the Pope, yeah, I totally subscribe. And ran their little hustles the way that they do. And finally, people got pissed off, and now you get what you get. Anyway, I'm reading more about that, man, and there's a lot to it. A lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous. But it is some very interesting shit. Anyway, moving along, man. What else? Some dudes had posted in the chat. There was Jared Taylor appeared on a podcast, and I can't remember who it was with, but Mark Collette maybe. Anyway, he was on a podcast, and he was talking about essentially that he had kind of lost faith in the ability of America to, I don't know, in the ability to right itself, to straighten things out and have like a reasonable white country again. I don't know. I can't really lean too much one way or the other on that. And I'll kind of get into why here forthwith, but I want to give 2 cents on that. And then I want to give 2 cents on some stuff that I found in terms of alternate locations. One dude in the chat had asked, like, hey, man, look at Alaska. Because that was something that Jared Taylor had mentioned, that, like, maybe Alaska. I like how the guy talks, man. I mean, he really is like your granddad. And he's such a nice guy, dude. Seems like such a nice guy. Guy who keeps himself in good shape. for my money. If I'm being completely honest, I think the guy is too nice. I don't think nice is going to make the cut here. And I guess maybe by means of wrapping it up, and again, I'll preface it now and I'll say it again. Don't take this shit as a Fed post. Don't take it as something that it's not. I'll be as specific as I can and say, hey, look, this is what I mean by what I'm saying here. But no more Mr. Nice Guy, dude. That ship has fucking sailed. And I mean, if the Spanish Inquisition taught us nothing else, it has taught us that, like, trying to do shit the nice way with these people will not make the fucking cut. All right, so I guess by way of getting into this whole thing, if you hadn't listened to that Jared Taylor interview on, I think it was a Mark Collette podcast, kind of the premise of it was he's saying that, just like me and just like a lot of us, his history, his family's history in the U.S. goes way, way, way back. And I say the same thing to people, man. I say my family was in America before it was America, dude. I'm older than America. This is our fucking place. It's our society. We built this shit. These interlopers, whatever, you can have all the passports and documents you want. You'll never be us. You can say whatever the fuck you want. Just like I can move to China. And, if I stay there long enough, probably maybe my kids or my grandkids could get a Chinese passport. But you ain't gonna be Chinese, dude. Even, I would imagine, like, grandkids, great-grandkids, even if they interbred and, the whiteness was bred out of them, people would still look at them and be like, you're not quite us. You're something else. What are you? Because you're not fucking Chinese, dude. Well, no, look I have this document, and my grandpa, he was, look, he had a passport too. It doesn't matter, dude. You're not us, all right? So I can definitely relate to his frustration. For an older dude, because he is old, man. He's like boomer tier. I can definitely see where, like, that shit would hurt, dude. Where, like, you've got a way that you see the world, and it's been like that for as long as you can remember, and now suddenly... not so much like now suddenly, because it is Jared Taylor, right? But for your average boomer, you got to look at this like suddenly everything I knew is bullshit. It's like getting snatched out of the Matrix. Like, wait a minute, I thought this was America. I thought we were the melting pot, the red, white, and blue, right? Don't we all bleed red, right? Yeah, wrong, dude, wrong. They want you fucking out. So he's talking about he doesn't really see a way where the U.S. rights itself, because if we're being honest, there's not really a way where you have a functional America without white men running the show. And I'd say white people, but if we're, again, being completely honest here, the importance of white women hinges on their ability to produce white men. All right, and I had heard a good talk a while ago that, like, that was a huge merit of white women, that they could be trusted while men were out working or expanding the empire or doing whatever it is that white men do that make the world a better place. They could be trusted to be the fuck at home and keep their legs closed and not do anything fucking nutty, right? You obviously do not have that now, dude. It's fucking TikTok a go-go out there. And they've just been pimps since they were children to run absolutely fucking wild. Eat what you want, do what you want, flash your ass, and if somebody looks crooked, just report them. I'll report them. I'll get you fired. And it's like there's no rails on this fucking thing anymore. So he's talking about, is there a way to keep America upright? Because as soon as it becomes black astronauts, that only ends in a ball of fire. And from his perspective, no, he does not believe so. And it's a hard argument to make otherwise. When you're talking about literally every major American city, like you pick any major city, LA, Seattle, Chicago, St. Louis, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, New Orleans, Charlotte, Orlando, Miami, New York, Boston. I don't know Boston. I've never been to Boston. I'd really like to go to Boston. I think it might be cool. If nothing else, like, I just want to plan a drinking trip to Boston. I'm going to hit a bunch of pubs, drink a bunch of beer, Talk like I'm fucking Goodwill Hunting and fuck off down the road. Maybe wake up in the morning with a wicked splitting fucking headache. Ah, God, what the fuck went on? But I don't know. Yeah, hey, maybe in springtime, let's plan a fucking an abuse trip to fucking Boston, for kicks. Any of us that ain't in the camps yet, let's do that shit. Might be cool. Anyway, so you look at any of these major cities, dude. I mean, what is the white population here? I mean, it's 50% and lower. Because if nationally the population the white population is like 60%, I mean, that's taking into account all the, if you will, bunny ears flyover states, all these places where it is white people just lug nutting it out, man, building the shit you use every day, producing the food you eat every day. That ain't Tyrone doing that shit. I mean, I think if Zimbabwe's been good for nothing else, it's been a good example that, like, that's not where this shit happens. That shit doesn't go on in Zimbabwe. It goes on in rural white America. But if those places are all 100% white, then you can kind of conclude that all of these major cities, like these places are Burger King Kids Club. These places are not the 56%. These places are a catastrophe. So if we know that, like, all of these major urban centers are now like hostile territory. You can't walk down the street at night there. You sure as hell wouldn't let your kids, like, hey, yeah, go play after dark. You'd never see them again. They'd be gone, spirited away in an afternoon. So what is the road ahead? If there is a road ahead, and that is a tough question to answer. Is there a way ahead? One thought that I had on this, I'll give kind of the whole, my whole thought on this, to kind of wrap this up, because I think it does bear consideration and kind of speaks to the fact that it's hard to tell how things play out. But as kind of a teaser, I would say that you can't always fucking tell. And it's just like I had talked about this way, way early on. I think it might have been like my second or third podcast ever, was like the idea of the super infection, where like you go to the doctor and they give you antibiotics for some shit. How they always tell you, like, you got to take all of this shit. Take all of it. Don't stop taking it when you feel better. Take all of it. And the reason they're telling you that is because you take antibiotics, it kills off all the nasty shit that's making you feel bad, except for that very last remaining bit of it, the strongest bit of it. It won't kill that off till the very, very end, because that shit's strong and it's hanging on. But if you don't take all of that antibiotic, that very, very strong shit is going to stay around, and it's going to replicate and reproduce. And now, where before you had a body, lungs or whatever the fuck, full of some strong shit, some weak shit, whatever kind of shit, making you feel crummy, right? And you were taking antibiotics and it's going to slowly kill off all of it. Instead, you got lungs full of just the very, very, very strong shit. And just like antibiotics, this is kind of what diversity has done to Western cultures, what it's done to the white population. It slowly killed it off, except that the strongest of the white population is not going to be killed off, is going to resist, right? We're like an antibiotic resistant strain, is going to hang on and endure until the very, very, very end. And it's not till the very, very, very end that, then you're going to like, fuck, what do I do? Now you move to China and you shack up with your fucking waifu or whatever. And, you have a half kid, they have a quarter kid, and the next kid has an eighth kid, and now you're just gone. You're just China now. China is here. So that's not till the very, very, very end. So they have to stay on it. And I think they know that to some degree, and they're going to stay on it. But I mean, again, you look at the Hebrews of today pulling the strings and compare them to like your Abe Foxman of yesteryear. Like, those dudes were fucking slick, man. Those guys had their shit together. These coin clippers today, not so much. So in a lot of ways, it's like they've stopped being so disciplined with their antibiotics and they're letting it slip. So is it the possibility that we can, resist the antibiotic, that we can be the super infection and multiply. So now the entire white population is like, yeah, no, I don't fucking think so. Yeah, no, diversity, whatever. Yeah, you go fuck yourself with that shit. I'm not having it. Is that a possibility? It is, and maybe, well, I don't know. I'll get into the nuts and bolts of how that could come about, or, kind of my perspective on that as we move along. What I wanted to do, though, straight away is I got in the weeds a little bit this morning, and I crunched some numbers, as they call it, research. And I got a good look at Alaska. I got to look at a couple other places, and I'll tell you, I had to get a look at some other places because Alaska, my friend, is pretty fucked up. I'm just going to say up front, dude, Jared Taylor, yeah, I respect the guy to no end. The guy is a pioneer. The guy is an upstanding man. But on this Alaska thing, it ain't fucking happening, friend. I do not see it. Could it happen down the road? Maybe. That's not an impossibility. Right now, today, I will say that Alaska is not something I would look at. But let me get into the nuts and bolts of this. So straight out of the gate, you look at Alaska, and Alaska sits above, I think it's the 60 degrees north line of latitude. So it's way the fuck north. And if you look at that, that's like the entire state. The entire state is above the latitude of St. Petersburg. The entire state is like above, or it's like right on par with like most of Norway, all of Finland, most of Sweden. So like where you look at Northwest Europe, where there's like Denmark and the Kattegat, like the spot in like Denmark, Sweden, where there's like that little roundabout of water type shit, like that huge fucking inlet, right? Where there's like Denmark and then some Germany, and I think there's a little piece of Poland right there, and then it goes around the horn, and there's like Sweden and Norway and all that shit right there, right? The Kattegat, that's below. That spot is below where all of fucking Alaska is. So already, like, you're planning on being fucking cold, dude. And again, I can dig that the cold is a natural African repellent. I like that. That's great. But let's look deeper into it. So I looked at a couple spots in Alaska. I tried to look at just like larger cities, and I looked at a site called City. It's called City Data, but if you type in city-data I think it's .org if I remember right, it gives you like every city in the U.S. and you can look at by state, you can look at by city. It's got like this little map that you could click on, and it'll go all the way down to like zip code, and it'll give you racial breakdown, median income, all kinds of shit. How do these people vote? What's the age brackets like? All this shit. It'll give you tons and tons of information. It'll give you environmental data. What's the rainfall? What's the temperature? What's the sunshine? All this shit. So if you look at a place, man, like, I was thinking of moving to fucking Dallas so I could get shot at Daly Plaza. You could look at this and figure out probably who's going to shoot you. Anyway, so I took a look at this Alaska situation. So the first spot I looked at, one of the first cities I clicked on was Fairbanks, Alaska. So right now, Fairbanks, Alaska, -18 degrees. So that fucking sucks, dude. And I understand, like, yeah, dude, it's December now, but -18, bro, that's going to sting. Population is 32,000. Median income is 71,000. So I think it's slightly higher than the national average. Median home value is 291,000. So that's actually, I believe, a little bit low. And these are 2022 numbers. So these will have changed between then and now, you know. The average rent, 2022 numbers again, $1,400. So what you're kind of seeing is this is not a super high-end area. Now, it gets pretty shitty here looking at the racial breakdowns. And you want to think like, yeah, like maybe there's I don't know, what's a good word for the native Alaskan, you know, like the I don't know, what do you call it, Inuit or whatever the fuck, the igloo people, whatever the fuck, all right? You want to imagine that there's a lot of them there, and maybe that's what skews it. It doesn't appear to be the case, dude. It's pretty fucking dodgy. Look at this shit, all right? White, 56%. 56%, right? And this is 2022. Hispanic 11.4%, black 6%, biracial 11.6%. So when you say biracial, I don't know. It doesn't detail here specific to Fairbanks in terms of like, is that half black, half Mexican, half white, half Hispanic? It doesn't fucking say. It could be anything. Not white. That's what we can conclude, right? Looking at the crime in Fairbanks, Alaska is more than double the U.S. average. So you're talking, I mean, I started looking at this, I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like rape, murder, theft, arson, all this shit, more than double the U.S. average. And then when you look at the environmental data, obviously cold as fuck because it's Alaska, but just the nature of the place, it never gets above 70. So even in like heaviest July, you ain't going to see 70. And you're also never going to see the sun. Like the sunshine is like, yeah, no, because you're that far fucking north. Like nighttime is going to start at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So if that's your thing, which I can't imagine it being, but if that's your thing, maybe Fairbanks is for you. Looking at Anchorage then, I looked at this because this was like way, way south. I'm like, all right, dude, let's try to make, some kind of sense of what's going on here. So I go way, way south in Alaska, looking at Anchorage, Alaska. Right now it's 19 degrees, which is moderately better. Median income there, 100,000. So I think that's, I don't know if that's individual income or household income. I forgot to look specifically on that. Median home value, Anchorage, Alaska, $367,000. So that's, again, $22. I want to say that's a little bit below the national average, and median rent, $1,300. So renting a place appears to be fairly affordable. But again here, you look at the racial breakdown, white, 54%, biracial 10%, Indian here they have, so I'm guessing that's like the Igloo people, whatever, Inuits, natives, whatever, 7%, Hispanic 10%, and black 5%. So that, again, man, that is not very accommodating. Crime in Anchorage, Alaska, way, way, way above national average, more than double the national average. So alls I can guess, I don't know. It's really hard to even speculate. Like, how does it get like this, dude? I had seen a thing where there was a pretty good amount of drug trafficking going up to Anchorage, or Anchorage just to Alaska in general, just because it's kind of, I believe, and I'm not your Alaska guy, but what I can gather out of this is that it's a little bit untended. It's not monitored as closely as a lot of other places. It's a lot of people focused on trying to stay alive. So, cops are going around focusing on that kind of shit. And it's dark a lot. So, out there getting away with murder in the hours of darkness. So a lot of drugs, a lot of rape, a lot of crime in general. Way, way the fuck up. So Anchorage, I would say absolutely not. If you got a spot that you know about in Alaska, go ahead and shill it, man. But from everything I saw, Alaska at present appears to be a no-go. There's a lot that would have to happen, I think, for most white people to look at this and say, yeah, you know what, maybe Alaska is the option here. Looking in terms of when we talked about, like, hey, the cold, right? This is our friend. We know how to survive in the cold because we plan ahead, we think ahead. These Africans, they don't, man. A lot of these undesirables, they don't. The trouble with that, I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, is that so many white people tend to do the thinking for these idiots. All right? We plan ahead. We make sure there are resources, there are places to live, and that one of these idiots freezes to death on the sidewalk. There's going to be some liberal woman out there wringing her hands. Oh my God, a senseless tragedy. This didn't have to happen. Like, it kind of did have to happen. And it's probably for the best that it happened. But here we all are, all right. But with all that said, I looked over at Maine and New Hampshire again, because this was something that had gone around before, and one of the dudes that I had on before actually moved up to Maine, and he appeared to be liking it all right. He was saying that there's a little bit of adjustment, but he seemed to be liking it all right. Last I heard from him, he was doing pretty well. But I looked again at Maine and the general scene there, and by comparison, if this was the strategy you were going to go for, that I'm going to go to Maine, and use the cold to my advantage. Maine would, it appears, Maine or New Hampshire would appear to be a better option. So looking at what I found there, I looked at Portland, Maine, and in Portland, Maine, we're looking at white 78%, black 8.7%, biracial 6.5%, Hispanic 3%. So that's, it's not ideal. And again, you're going to have to consider that when you say black in Maine, what you're talking about largely there is Somalian. Like not even, how can you say, the white admixture, like historical, like great-great-great-grandfather worked on the plantation and then I escapified and got up to Maine and now you're here. No, you're talking about legit first generation fucking Somalians. Like these people are a fucking problem. Like this is, this has been talked about a good bit, but when you look at the crime stats in Portland, Maine, it's only about 75% of the national average, but compared to other towns that size, man, it is not ideal. Like, so you're looking at a good bit of rape, a good bit of theft, a good bit of assault, the things you would expect, right, from your average Somalian. So I looked also, and this seemed a little bit favorable, I looked here at New Hampshire. So when you look at, if you get a chance to look at this citydata.org, or I think it's citydata.org is what it is, and you look at the racial breakdown of like the Northeast, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, a lot of Massachusetts, this looks very, very favorable, all right? Because, yeah, it is. They are a bunch of liberal idiots, but just the white people factor, dude. There's a lot of slack there. Again, which way does that eventually go? Hard to say, but just telling you what I see today. So I took a look at, sorry, I had some technical difficulties there. So I took a look at Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and check this out. So in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, you're talking about 86.5% white, 3.6% biracial or multiracial, 2.3% other, 4% Hispanic, 4% Asian, 2.7% Hispanic, and 1% black. So that is pretty sweet as percentages goes. The average income here is higher than the rest of the country. Well, a lot of the rest of the country anyway. Average household income $97,000 and average home value $677,000. So that's not a cheap place to live. That's a pretty spendy place to live. But again, like if you wanted to kick down, this seems like this would be a pretty decent place to go to get away from the perils of diversity, and seems like you've got a pretty decent piece of cold to keep them in check. One of the other places I looked at, because I'd been up to New Hampshire twice actually, went to a rally driving course up there, and had a chance to get down to Manchester, New Hampshire, and that's actually a pretty good sized city. I can't remember how big it is, but it's a pretty good sized city, and it's got actually 79% white, 15% Hispanic, 5% biracial, 3% black, and 3% Asian. And kind of like Portsmouth, New Hampshire, it's a little bit higher average household income with like $74,000, and the average home value there, $354,000. So a little bit, how do I want to say, like lower class, but it's almost like you got to pay to escape diversity is, I think, where we're at on this thing. But really just looking at that neck of the woods, if you like the whole coast of Maine, New Hampshire, again, I don't know from Boston or Massachusetts so much. I just know it's very, very liberal that way. But it does seem like the kind of place where like you can escape the diversity. It just becomes a question of like, how much longer is that going to last? Which kind of brings us to the way ahead. Like, which way is this whole thing going to go? Because I think if you look at it just as it is now, if we look at the situation only as it is right now, you have to like pick one of these places and say, well, this is where I think I'm going to go. And I mean, if we're looking that direction, we had talked a little bit about Russia, that Russia is like one of these last bastions of, traditional values, traditional family values. I guess they just had a thing where they cracked down on some gay nightclub. Like, not just some nightclub that's kind of lame, like an actual gay nightclub with dudes in underwear dancing in cages and this kind of shit. So there was like video on Telegram, and I can't remember where else I saw it. I think I saw it on The Gram. But I mean, there's cops rolling in, snatching dudes up, snatching all these fancy dans, and they're in there yelling at people, sit on the ground, get your hands on your head. So there's all these fruits with their hands on their head. I was like, whoa, it's good comedy, man. Like, they're getting tuned up. And these cops are not in there like, sorry, we just got to do what we got to do. Like, they don't dig this shit. And I think people over there are seeing what goes on here, and they're like, yeah, we're not having that shit. Not up in here. Not up in here. So, looking at Russia, though, like, some of us had talked, floated that idea that, I mean, Russia has been saying, like, hey, if you're oppressed and you're like a traditional-minded person, come here. And I know there are, like, efforts to stand up, like, an American village where, like, yeah, you're going to have to learn to get by here and everything, but, like, look, it's a better scene. If I'm just being completely straight, I mean, my take is kind of like, dude, it might very well be better, but I mean, that's a long ways, bro. It's a really long ways, and it's a lot to get your head around. Like, and I mean, me, like, I enjoy language study, dude, and I dig it. I like looking at it. I like spending a little time on it, but Russian is hard as fuck, dude. Slavic languages are hard as fuck, and I think part of the complicating factor is almost that, like, you feel like it should make sense because you're white and they're white, and it's like, yeah, no, dude, this is a completely other idea, like a complete foreign way of expressing yourself. Like, none of the words are really like this equals this. It's sort of like this plus this sort of equals the idea of that. You just got to figure out how to say it the right way, and it's a lot to get your head around, man. But if we were to look that far, and kind of look that far, I looked at Sochi. So Sochi, Russia, a place where they had, I think it was a 2014 Olympics. And it's kind of, I saw somebody described it, maybe it was in the chat, somebody described it as the San Francisco of Russia. Like, there's like some artsiness, some fartsiness, some vacation land to it. And I looked at it, and it actually does not look half bad. It's environment-wise, it's some decent sunshine, some decent weather. It looks like it only gets below freezing ever at night in the winter. So you can count on like high 20s, low 30s at the worst in the winter, in the middle of the night. And then in the summer is like mid 70s in the daytime. So I was like, dude, that's not half bad right there. Price wise, I think it's a little spendier than like most other European cities, and definitely in that part of the world, it's going to be a little spendier. But I looked up a few places, like, hey, how much would it cost to get like an apartment or a condo or a house or whatever in Sochi, Russia? And it doesn't look too awful bad. I saw like $400,000 for like a 4-bedroom apartment, and I mean, I'm a little faggy about I like nice places and shit, right? So I looked at it and I was like, it's like an affordable place in the U.S. is about what you could expect to pay. I mean, like anywhere, you can find a place for $5 million if that's what you're into. I don't have $5 million, I can tell you that. But I mean, if you want that, you can certainly find that. Somebody will take your $5 million. But otherwise, like, if you're a regular person, I mean, like, I am a regular person, you're a regular person, you go over there, you could probably find a livable apartment, a livable house. You got a family, you're going to have a place to put your wife and kids, and you're not going to break the bank on this thing. As for work, I couldn't really say. It is a resort town, so if you've got a knack in any field like that, I'm like a little cart before horse, I'd just given this some thought. But it is a vacation town, so if you happen to be a bartender, about managing a hotel, any of this shit, they'd probably be, I mean, they might very well be into it. Who's to say? I mean, they might be like, fuck you, American, get the fuck out of here. I don't know. But I mean, again, if you're bringing talent to the party, there's probably something for you. I don't know. It's just a thought. But to that end, I kind of wanted to, before we put any eggs in any baskets, I kind of wanted to get some, I guess, more abstract thoughts down on what is our thought process in terms of trying to predict which way this whole thing might tilt, and I can't remember if I had talked about this before, so if I have, I'll apologize if you're suffering through it again, but I want to lay it out again. So in terms of kind of predicting what might or might not happen, I think that we, kind of being the early adopter mindset type people that we are, I think we have a habit of looking 2 or 3 moves down the road. Like you would in a chess game, like you think, oh, I'm really good at this. Who's someone that's really good? I can look, 2, 3 moves down the road. I know what he's going to do, what I'm going to do, he's going to do. The problem with that is when you're looking far down the road, you're looking at the board as it is. So I'd read a little bit about this, and don't get it twisted. Like, I suck ass at chess. Like, I suck ass at most things, but I do understand the concept of it. And, I'd say like understanding the concept of it is at least something you can take something out of when you're, trying to apply it in another field like this. So the idea here is that if you're looking 2 or 3 moves ahead, well, that's well and good, but only if you know how the board is going to end up laying out 2 or 3 moves ahead. Because what a lot of people will do is they'll say, okay, I want to go like this, I want to go like this, and then he's going to be stuck like that. You're thinking 2, 3 moves ahead, but by the time it gets 2, 3 moves down the road, the layout on the board that you're basing that prediction on is completely fucking gone. So this guy that you're sitting across from might have a whole stack of moves. I mean, he may have 20, 30, 40 possible moves. Half of them might not make any sense. A few of them might be something that really harms him, but a handful of them are very viable options for him. So if you're trying to think 2, 3, 4 moves down the road, and now he's got 10, 15 possibilities where I could go this way, this way, this way. You don't know what the fuck he's thinking. All right? You got to think of a whole lot of things. But if you're only thinking, I'm going to go like this, then like this, then like this, it doesn't fucking work out like that. So if you play through all those permutations, there's like 200 or 300 possibilities that have come and gone, and you're still looking like how you thought things were going to be down the road here. And that's kind of the crossroads I think we're at, to kind of, circle jerk back to reality. Is that we're looking way down the road like, okay, if Shlomo and the coin clippers, they keep doing this, then this happens, and this happens. Like us, we're talking about your important third worlders, white birth rates keep plummeting, currency keeps getting devalued, international conflicts keep going like so. Where does that leave me 2, 3 moves down the road? All right, well, what you're not taking into account is the point at which, like they're starting to talk now, like even the most liberal of European countries are talking about, hey, maybe we stop letting all these people in. Hey, maybe we actually start sending some of them back. That's like a move that we didn't really predict. What's 1 or 2 moves down the road that we might not have predicted? Hey, what if we start rescinding citizenships? Hey, what if we start rounding up people that are like, you look like, or you're related to, or you came in on a chain migration deal connected to somebody that we just deported. You're out of here too. Is that really such a stretch? It's a stretch compared to like 5, 10 years ago when it was like nice little girls at the airport saying refugees welcome. Where are we at now compared to that? It's not such a stretch to say, yeah, you're related to that guy, you're out of here too. Because that's what people are talking about. So if we look that way, now what does the future look like? It looks pretty fucking bright. So in terms of, do we got to move to the middle of nowhere? No, not really. Can we realistically just hope Shlomo will stop what he's doing and give us a fucking break? No, also not realistic. But looking 2 or 3 moves down the road, I think we do have to think of like, let's see how things shake out a little bit. Let's see what white people in general, what big picture, white world starts thinking about, like, all right, dude, because if people start, like, you're not the only motherfucker thinking this, right? And if a lot of people start saying like, you know what, I've just about had it with these motherfuckers, and there's nobody standing there going, no, they deserve a fair shake. People are getting fed up with this shit. So like the liberal woman thing and the fag thing where it's like, oh, come on, don't be such a brute, don't be such a racist, don't be such a meanie. That shit is fucking passe, dude. Like, you come out here with just your feel-good rainbow flag, people are like, hey, you just don't fucking say a word. Shut the fuck up. Get back in that fucking closet. I'm not having it. Right? So how far down the road is it? That's kind of the $64 question. I think we kind of have to see like how will this shake out. But I think at that point, then we can start making a better prediction in terms of like which way are people leaning. Because we do have to remember that we're kind of the canary in the coal mine. Like I was yelling about this shit in like 2015 when they started letting all these idiots into Europe. I was like, dude, this is fucking catastrophe. And I can't count how many people were like, you're a real asshole, you know? But now, like, I haven't changed my tune. But now people are looking at me going, man, what do we do about these fuckers? Well, what do you think we should do, guy? Maybe we should get them the fuck out of here like I've been saying for 10 fucking years, right? So looking ahead then, I mean, I do think that an opportunity will open up. Some kind of direction will probably form. Even if it is, hey, everybody hunker down in place till we can all get on the same page. That's not a bad piece of advice. That's not a bad plan. We can work with that. Apart from that, though, the one definite thing I think we can take away, and this is what I was going to say, is that like don't take this shit in some weird kind of way, as I want to kind of clarify, is that Shlomo and the coin clippers are not going to just give you no free pass. I think if I kind of look at it a little bit, I'm inclined to think that the U.S. really is, if you look at it, it is a pretty ideal spot. Right, you got oceans on both sides, a lot of mountains, a lot of wide open territory. It is a pretty good spot to kind of set up shop and just run things. And if somebody wants to fuck with you, like it really is kind of a tough road to hoe. If you were going to try to come up through Mexico, well, all right, there's like your little channelized area. It's hard to come up here like en masse. You know, so it's a nice place to set up shop. So if I was Shlomo and the coin clippers, I could see where somebody is like, yeah, dude, if I could just get all that for me, I could have a real nice little eagle's nest out there. I could have all the little worker bees, my 56%, you know, faceless, raceless, brain dead, you know, no complaints, bug-eaten worker class just out there turning the wrenches and keeping the factory up and running. I don't got to take any shit. I can enjoy the scenery. Everything is going my way. That's not a bad plan if you're Shlomo. And I think that, I think saying that is a component of what they have in mind, I don't think that's too much of a stretch. I could see that very much being part of their plan. So with that in mind, I want to say that there is not a version of this. There is not a formula of this where we get a moment's fucking rest without in some way fighting back. Now, for the autists in the audience, I want to say, I am not saying run right out, engage in violence, do something fucking nutty. I am not saying do any of that. The first thing I'm saying you should do is sit and fucking think. All right? We are not going to fucking beat Shlomo and the Coin Clipper Club. They've been at this a long fucking time. They've had a lot of time to get a lot of plans in place. They can be beaten. We are beating them back. We've been doing a real good job just talking it up. And I mean, fucking memes, dude, for God's sake. I mean, how effective are memes, right? But with that said, I think there's going to have to be resistance at some point. And that, don't rush to judgment on like that means take up arms or some kind of shit. What I'm saying is resist at every avenue, whether that means like any way to cut down on the taxes I give these assholes, any way to keep them from getting their hands on this, that, or the other, any way to occupy a kind of a space that denies them, a platform that denies them an avenue of power, take that shit. If you're the worst fucking school board member ever, that's okay. As long as you get in there and deny Shlomo a spot. If you're like, man, I don't care what kind of math we teach. I don't much give a shit what kind of history we teach, as long as it's not a pile of shoes. I don't fucking care. Just get in there and take up a fucking spot. Even if you only do it for like a year, where you're like, yeah, I'm taking this. And I'm taking it just so that asshole can't have it. And even if it only gives you like a few occasions where you could stand there and say, hey man, I don't care what we teach. We're just not sending kids to the Tolerance Museum. Hey, I don't care what we do. We're just not using tax dollars to build another fucking basketball court. We're not doing that shit. If you can just do that for one fucking year, or even 6 months or whatever, fill somebody's spot until the next, vote on this shit comes up. Do that shit just to fuck Shlomo over. So that's what I'm meaning, man. Like, it doesn't have to be, and this is coming from like, dude, I'm not the guy afraid to go over the fucking wall. I've done the shit. All right. What I'm saying is that shit is a last resort, because you can't walk that shit back. What I am saying is resist at every fucking avenue. And the first fucking avenue is stop and fucking think, how can I fuck Shlomo over today? They're always looking to fuck you over, right? They don't wake up a day without like, how can I take something from the fucking goy today? Oh God, look at this. I'm going to bump your fucking interest rates a fucking 1/10%. I'm going to make it just a little bit harder for you to get by this, that, or the other fucking way. Do the same shit to Shlomo, man. Dude, I see fucking these Orthodox fucks in the airports all the time, dude, especially when I'm on the East Coast. Like, oh, where the fuck was I, dude? I flew out of fucking Newark a while back, and there was a gaggle of them, man. I swear to God, anything you can do to inconvenience them, just nudge them the fuck out of the way a little bit, fuck them over in line at the coffee shop, anything to fuck up their day just a little fucking bit. Just give them a fucking taste of what they've done to your fucking country, to your people for centuries. To fuck them around just a little bit. I ain't saying like pushing a guy out of line at the fucking coffee stand is going to make up for any of that shit. What I am saying is just that tiny bit of resistance every inch of the way. You're doing a little bit, the guy next to you is doing a little bit, because somebody else sees you do that shit. They might actually think like, yeah, those motherfuckers, dude, they're not so fucking bulletproof. Because they do have like, you know, they walk around here like an aura around them, like, man, you can't fucking talk about them. Don't look at them. Don't piss them off. Don't do anything. The last thing you want is these motherfuckers making a call to fucking Uncle Abraham, and now, you know, your fucking business is getting inspected for this, that, or the other. Fuck that, dude. Give them a little bit of a hard time. Give them a fucking shake. Hey, look out, motherfucker. I'm walking. You know what I mean? So with that said, dude, I want to leave that there, dude. I think that's, I don't know, a good note to end on that is really just kind of wait and see, and in the meantime, make Shlomo's life hard. But the thing I want to end on, I guess, I saw this thing, somebody had sent it to me, like this chunk of some Sam Hyde action where he's talking about, and I don't know where to get. I mean, I guess I could get it if I paid for it, but I'm a fucking cheap bastard, dude. I don't want to I'm not paying $10 a month to look at Sam Hyde. All right, I want to see this shit. I want to hear everything he had to say, but I'm not paying $10 a month. It's not fucking happening. But somebody did send me like a little highlight deal where he's talking about some fucking guy that he saw on YouTube, and it was on the fucking Sean Ryan thing. And he's talking about, like, he's got some dude on there that says he's a Delta Force guy, and he can't tell you his name. He's a secret guy that's too secret. And he's up there and he's talking and he's like, yeah, bro, I was out there, bro. And he's saying some wazoo shit of like, I was driving town to town. I even have an interpreter with me, man. I just drove up, you know, and I come to a checkpoint and they're like, who the fuck are you? And I was like, oh, Durka, Muhammad Jihad, whatever, fucking blah, blah, blah. I pretended I was retarded and they just waved me through. And I'm like, you're a fucking liar, for one. I talk to a lot of motherfuckers, like motherfuckers that are from places, you know, and they're like, I can't drive over there. Like, these motherfuckers are from there and they can't drive into these fucking places because they will get fucking shot. They're like, I don't know anybody there. I'll pull up and they'll be like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, I don't know. I don't have a good reason. And now you're getting fucking smoked. So don't fucking hand me some shit like country boy Joe out here just big dicked his way through every checkpoint in Afghanistan. I'll call you a liar to your face. But he was talking about, like, yeah, I was gunning motherfuckers down. I killed as many human beings as possible. And, you know, obviously Sam Hyde's not interviewing the guy, but he's talking about it and he's like, what the fuck is this, dude? He's like, you know, you're driving out here with all this fucking weaponry, all this technology, and, you know, the idea here is that the biggest threat to the American way of life is some motherfucker that lives on dirt and tree bark. You know, and that's the most important thing. And you're going to shoot this guy down with missiles that cost as much as a year's tuition at a university. Like, how many university admissions does it cost to kill this one dirt-eating motherfucker? And that's your claim to fame. And he's like, dude, whatever did you really accomplish? What did you really, really do? And, dude, I can't argue with the fucking guy. And having come from this community, I've said the same shit. I've said it 100 fucking times. When you look back and you're like, dude, what did I really actually fucking do? I didn't do shit. I mean, it's sort of like if you walked out there to some kind of a thing of like, oh, you're going to walk this tightrope across the Grand Canyon, but, you know, you secretly don't know that there's a big safety net and a safety line attached to you and all this. You think you're actually doing this shit. Yeah, it's scary. You got to put your big balls on. But in retrospect, it's like, dude, these guys, you know, Afghans, they are pretty hard. But I mean, again, they're not working with all the technology you have. I mean, bro, fucking gunships, night vision, the missiles, the rockets, the helo support, all this shit. They don't have that, dude. It's not an even fight. You know, so you are going out there and you are going to their backyard and you are the visiting team and there is some put out to it. But at the end of the day, bro, what did you, and I'm picking on this guy as much as I'm picking on myself, that like, at the end of the day, what did you actually really do? You know, I made a lot of fucking money for a lot of Hebrew-owned corporations. A lot of politicians got real fucking paid, hooked up their friends who hooked them up in turn. So a lot of people got hooked up just because guys like me are willing to go out there and fuck up somebody's furniture for a few dollars less. I mean, that's an honest assessment. And for the dudes that have done time on this shit, this ain't a fuck you to you, and it ain't a fuck you to me or a fuck you to anybody that did time in the American military or in any military where you got stuck doing this shit. Because the way I think of it is that, man, just because you lied to me when I was a teenager, like you conned me when I was a teenager, fed me this song and dance about, you know, protecting America and patriotism and last line of defense and cutting edge and tip of the spear and the elite among the elite and all this shit. You fed me this shit. I bought it like an asshole, you know, but I bought it because I had no reason to doubt you, right? You're the people in charge of my country, the country I grew up in, the country founded by people like me, for me, you know, and so on. You told me this shit, I went out there and did this shit, and now only in retrospect is it like, haha, fuck you, I tricked you. And now what sucks is that guys that have done that shit, you know, you want to hang on to it and be like, no, man, fuck you, I'm a patriot, goddammit. This is not about you. You're not wrong for believing people who should have been telling you the truth. You know, you're not the fucking asshole for that. I'm not the asshole for that. And even this goofball on Sean Ryan is not the asshole for that. The difference there for my money, though, is that when you find out you got trick fucked, when you find out you've been lied to, when you find out that you got a whole gaggle of fucking dead friends. I mean, dude, I got a bunch of fucking phone numbers, and I actually just went through and cleared out a bunch of old texts the other day because I had, like, I'm one of these motherfuckers that I have texts from 1,000 fucking years ago. And I still, dude, I got rid of shit that, like, people I don't want to talk to, people I'm not going to plan to continue a conversation with, whatever. But I still got a lot of old texts from guys that I knew that have died since, or even, you know, I mean, I'm kind of an old fucking, like a lot of these guys weren't guys that died, you know, in the shit or anything. A couple guys that, like, went around the bend and punched their own ticket. That's not very fucking cool. Some guys that, like, just, you know, you come back and you're like, holy fuck, I'm alive. And guys will just eat and drink themselves to fucking death. One guy who was like a real solid dude just turned into, I mean, he was a thick dude anyway, but he turned into a straight fat fuck. I know a couple guys like that, actually. It's like, I can't believe I'm not dead. And it's just like, eat, drink, be merry. And the next thing you know, you're a just fucking beast, just this fat bastard, and like, bleh, and you're fucking dying. And it's like, yeah, you didn't get shot. You know, you didn't really PTSD yourself in the traditional way and, you know, I don't know, OD on booze and pills or some shit. But would this really be like that if it wasn't for all this other shit went on, you know? So I look at that and I'm like, dude, there's a whole lot of dudes, a whole lot of families and what have you that got fucked up because of the way this shit has gone down for the last, like, over, like, last quarter century, for God's sake. And this is what you get out of it. Is like, yeah, just a bunch of dead dudes. Well, what do we really get out of this? Like, there's no fixing Afghanistan. There's no fixing Iraq. There's no fixing any of this shit. There's no fixing fucking Syria or Libya or any of this shit. There's only fucking it up. And you're busy fucking that up, and at the same time, you're fucking up the dudes here. And then you got these fucking jamokes on these fucking podcasts. Fucking Dave Goggins, this fucking, or this Delta Force fucking guy. And Sam Hyde's got another clip on there of this Dave Goggins up there. And somebody asked him, he's giving a talk somewhere, and somebody asked him, like, do you have any empathy or any kind of thing for the people that you're out there, you know, fighting against? And for the record, like, Dave Goggins, as an operator, great marathon runner. we'll just leave it at that, right? This guy's not a fucking operator. This guy is a fucking athlete. That's it. That's all. And there is a fucking difference, all right? So I'd say that right to the guy's fucking face. It's not a fucking secret. So if you're going to come to me like he's a hard-ass, badass motherfucker, well, I'll tell you to get fucked, dude, because the guy's a guy that just runs. You're a fucking runner. You're not a hitter. Somebody's asking him, though, about like, oh, you know, the opposition out there, how do you feel about you? Is there no level of empathy? And he's like, I don't have that shit. I ain't even have that shit. Which, black, right? This has nothing to do with being a hitter. The guy just can't identify with someone else's position. So it is what it is, dude. But, yeah, in that sense, I would say, like, yeah, these cats are not people to look up to. I mean, if there's a guy that says, yeah, dude, like just really honestly, just some basic grunt Joe that's like, yeah, I went out there, it sucked, it hurt, I slept on the ground, I killed people in pajamas, I'm not quite sure what that was about, I feel like I got lied to. That's our guy, dude. That's a guy that's trying to embrace the fucking truth. So it is what it is, man. I have a hard time disagreeing with Sam Hyde on this one, you know, as with so many things. Anyway, that's about all I have then. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. But until next time, man, feel free to leave this shit where somebody can find it. And until we speak again, keep your eyes on the horizon. Keep your neck out of the noose. I have been Coffee. These are my takes.